From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 2 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk.
If. For such a small word, it packs a wallop. If I live to 100, if Social Security isn't enough, if my heart gets broken, if she says yes. We believe IF should never hold you back. IF should be managed with a plan that builds on what you already have. Together, we can create a personal safety net, a launching pad for all those brilliant ifs in the middle of life. You can call on our expertise and get guarantees for the if in life. After all, we're MetLife.
GEICO, committed to providing service to its auto insurance customers for over 70 years. More information on auto insurance at geico.com or 1-800-947-AUTO, any time of the day or night.
Somewhere in America, a city comes to life. It moves effortlessly, breathes easily. It flows with clean water. It makes its skyline greener and its population healthier. All to become the kind of city people want to live and work in. Somewhere in America, we've already answered some of the nation's toughest questions. And the over 60,000 people of Siemens are ready to do it again. Siemens answers.
Issue 1, read my lips, new taxes.
I reject the idea that asking a hedge fund manager to pay the same tax rate as a plumber or a teacher is class warfare. I think it's just the right thing to do.
President Obama this week unveiled his formula for reducing the nation's debt. The heart of the plan is the quote-unquote Buffett rule, so called by the president, referring to Warren Buffett, the third richest man in the world, with his $50 billion. Okay, Buffett's rule, according to Obama, wealthy Americans earning a pre-tax income of $1 million a year or more should not pay a lower tax rate than that levied on middle-class income earners. So, tax the wealthy, says the president. The Obama tax plan also eliminates the Bush tax cuts for individuals making over $200,000 a year and families making $250,000 a year. House Republican Speaker John Boehner blasted the president and his plan, accusing the president of class warfare by demagoguing the wealthy to gain the support of the middle class. Boehner says the president is acting more like campaigner-in-chief than commander-in-chief.
It's been a bit disappointing because it's pretty clear that the president's decided to forget his role as president and leader of our nation in a time of economic uncertainty, and to begin the campaign for his reelection some 14 months away.
Question, is the Buffett rule good policy or is it class warfare, Pat?
The Buffett rule is rooted in the philosophy of envy and the gospel of greed. Mr. Buffett is unhappy because he doesn't pay as high a tax rate as he says his secretary does. John, here's the reasoning here. On real income, regular income, it's 35%. On capital gains, it's only 15%. The reason it is that capital gains is the return on investment. If you want more investment in the economy, why in heaven's name would you raise taxes on it? What Obama is doing is taking his old proposals, repackaging them, basically, and pushing them back out on the table, and he's going to get nothing out of it.
Buffett pays himself a salary, $100,000 a year.
Well, he'll pay 35% on that if it gets up to a certain level, but what he gets
that is peanuts.
Yeah, that's peanuts.
That means he moves all of his other money into his investments. Do you understand that?
Well, he gets capital gains and carried interest, and that's only taxed at 15%.
Right.
It should be, because that is investment, which is what we need.
So you think it's highly motivated that he does it that way, and he's not saving himself a real bundle?
I think he's a plutocrat who's playing to the crowd.
Eleanor.
I think Warren Buffett is exactly right, and I think if his proposals were brought to a vote in this country, the people would support it. The top 20% in the country, I think, controls 80% of the wealth. You can do some adjustments there, and the sweet deal for the coupon clippers and the investors should not trump what working people do to earn a living, and they're paying at a much higher tax rate, and our middle class is getting squeezed. In one of the rallies the president had, somebody had a sign that said, "They only call it class war when we fight back." And the president also said, it's not class war, it's math. You've got to adjust the revenue here somewhere. And the Buffett rule is just a small element of the president's attempt to recalculate where we are.
Tax me is what you're talking
Well, and the Bush tax cuts, it's existing law that they're supposed to expire. They were unaffordable when they were first passed, and they're certainly unaffordable now.
It's not good policy. It's not even a policy yet. There isn't a proposal from the president yet of what form this Buffett rule is going to take. In other words, is it going to be another alternative minimum tax? Is it going to be just taxing lots of capital gains as income? He's not putting it out there to get some legislative accomplishment in order to change the law. He's putting it out there in order to demagogue against Republicans who will oppose any tax hike and say, look, the Republicans are fighting against a tax hike for the rich that even Buffett wants. It's not serious. It's just simple class warfare.
Why has Buffett come forward this way?
Buffett's been doing this for years. Every time he does it, somehow it's like, oh my gosh, Warren Buffett is supporting a tax hike. He does it all the time. He wants an estate tax in there. He wants higher tax rates. He's a liberal. I mean, I could go on about how he might benefit from some of this.
What's his net worth?
It's
$42 billion, I think.
No, more than that.
He's in the top 10. He used to be number 2, as far right behind Bill Gates. I don't know if he.
What is his net worth? Do you know, Mark?
I don't follow it actually, and he doesn't consult me on it.
Mark, what's your net worth?
I don't follow that either, and I don't consult with him on that.
Are you a billionaire?
Yes.
Do you do what Buffett does? Declare yourself a salary, and if so, what is it?
Well, I'm perfectly happy to talk about Warren Buffett's salary if you would like.
Okay,
but let me just say that. I do
how do you
believe
think the way he's managing $100,000 a year,
well, because
and the rest of it he puts in investment and he pays the tax on that.
He pays a 15% rate on the rest of it.
Is that okay? That's okay.
It's what the law permits.
It's
so
legal.
It's perfect. Yes, it's totally legal.
Is he then entitled to be some kind of a hierophant on the matter of taxes?
I do think he is somebody who is really concerned with the welfare of the country. I mean, he's led, amongst other things, a lot of people to contribute to charitable causes, particularly in their wills, to devote at least 50% of their estate to charitable causes. And he's been a real pathfinder in this regard. But I want to get to the issue, really. The issue is very serious. I happen to believe that the wealthy people in this country should pay additional taxes, if only for political reasons, because otherwise you're going to have a great deal of difficulty getting through what we have to go through, which is a lot of pain for a lot of people in terms of cutting back various entitlement programs. So I've supported higher taxes on the wealthy for years. I was opposed to Bush's tax cuts. I was opposed to reinstating the tax cuts. I don't believe that that is anything that stimulates the economy. I do believe very strongly that we have to get our fiscal house in order, or else we're going to be in real trouble.
Did you hear what Connie said earlier, that we haven't gotten a clear statement of Obama about what his tax policy is?
Well, I mean, this is a policy. I mean, the problem is the point of it, whatever he says about his approach now is purely political. That's all he's doing. If he wanted to get something done, what he would have done was he wouldn't have given a speech before both houses of Congress on television.
Let's tie this up, Ellen. I want to tie it up in this way. 14 months from now, we're having an election. It's a midterm election. It's quite clear that President Obama at this point in his career does want to run, and he does want to win. Is this calculated, the terms of what he's putting forward, calculating with that in mind more than anything else?
This president has reached out a hand to Congress innumerable times and gotten it slapped. I think it's pretty clear that the Republicans are not going to pass anything. They may be shamed into extending the payroll tax cut, but that's about it. So he has no choice but to go to the country. Excuse me, Pat, I see you wishing to dive in.
No, I'm waiting for you to get done.
He has no choice. He has no choice but to go to the country and say, this is my vision. This is what the Republicans want to do. Yeah. And if it's going to take 14 months, I think that's criminal to make the country wait 14 months for any policy action. But that's his choice. And if you call that campaigning, that's what he should be doing.
John, here's what's happened is Eleanor's right. Obama has given up on the Republicans. I thought he was serious when he came out with the jobs bill. I thought there's some good ideas in there. I thought we'd urge Republicans to go halfway. So he comes out and it's a Pearl Harbor attack on the Republicans. It's class warfare. Why? No chance now for any real compromise. Right. For 14 months, as the country's going through hell, he's going to be out there campaigning when he's the President of the United States.
Excuse me,
He
could let somebody else get in. That is not the case.
I'm getting a lot of mail about crosstalk here, and I'm not doing my duty. Now it's your turn.
Okay. I do think that it is, as far as I'm concerned, inescapable to conclude that he is out there campaigning. If he wanted to get anything done, he would have met with the Republicans and the Democratic leaders privately, worked out whatever they can. Both parties would get the credit and the blame.
Answer that one point so I can get him in here.
All those tender little egos, they can't take the president standing up and setting out his policies.
He could have had compromise if he wanted to talk about spending.
Excuse me, the reaction.
Let her finish.
I try to let her finish.
The reaction from Capitol Hill was, oh, yeah, they were very nice for a few days. It was clear they weren't going to do anything. They were simply slow walking it.
Connie, finish up.
He could have gotten compromise if he looked for compromise on spending cuts. There's lots of spending the Republicans wouldn't want to give up. Democrats say compromise. They cut a lot of spending. He just wants a demagogue.
Compromise only on Republican terms is what you're saying.
That's
not a compromise.
into political warfare.
Issue 2, the rhino in the room.
We need to nominate someone who will have a stark, clear difference between the Republican nominee and President Obama. We don't need to nominate Obama light.
Republican in name only. R-I-N-O. Rhino. Is that what Mitt Romney is? A rhino? Texas Governor Rick Perry thinks so. The rap is that Mitt Romney is a Republican in name only. Not conservative enough, certainly, to be the Republican standard bearer. Tea Party officials say a lot of their voters won't turn out if Romney is the Republican nominee. Rick Perry is #1 in the polling of registered Republican and Republican-leaning independents. Also, Perry, 31%, Romney, 24%, Ron Paul, 13%. The rest of the GOP candidates for the Republican nomination are below 10%. From highest to lowest, Michelle Bachmann, Newt Gingrich, Herman Cain, Rick Santorum, John Huntsman. So, Rick Perry today is the most likely GOP nominee to challenge Barack Obama for the U.S. presidency in 13 short months. But Romney does better than Perry against Obama in general election polling of registered voters. Romney versus Obama, Romney wins, 49% to Obama's 47%. Okay, now Perry. Perry versus Obama. Obama wins with 50%. Perry, 45%.
Question, does it strike you as cheeky for Governor Perry, who late in life converted from Democratic Party to the Republican Party, to question Romney's political convictions? I ask you, Tim.
I think that Romney care is a huge difficulty for Mitt Romney, because the main thing that the Republicans can use against Obama is Obamacare. So on that very relevant issue,
what's
Romney Care was in Massachusetts. They passed a law that included an individual mandate as well as subsidies for people to get insurance and other provisions.
What's the problem? The individual mandate,
and today, it's the fact that was literally a prototype for Obama's national bill. And
hasn't Romney said it's state by state, and this happened to be customized for Massachusetts?
It's way too cute. But the problem is this, that you had 4 years ago, John McCain was in the same position that Romney was, where he had all these things on immigration, on taxes, on campaign finance reform. No Republican could nominate him because he was too much of a rhino, and he went ahead and got it. I don't think this kills Romney, though.
Republican in name only. Eleanor?
Well, if you're talking about way too cute, you've got Governor Perry supporting, I think, a very progressive and a very correct position on immigration, where he allows the children of illegals to pay in-state tuition. So he's got some liabilities in the Republican primary as well. But Romney is actually electable. If he can get the nomination, he could win. And at some point, Republican primary voters may begin to compare Perry and Romney in terms of electability, and I think Romney comes out ahead. I don't think Perry did well in the debate. He looks uncomfortable on the stage. He has rehearsed lines that he can't even really get out. out, and he's got some positions that are just
I
too
think
extreme.
that's Eleanor's right on that. I don't think
On
Perry,
the what, the debate?
Perry did not have a good debate. Secondly, Eleanor's point about immigration and illegal aliens getting in-state tuition is a blazing issue with conservatives. Romney has hammered Perry on it. It is far more damaging, turning out to be, than the individual mandate. Romney seems to be handling the individual mandate very well, and given the polls, it doesn't seem to bother him that much. I think, and we were talking earlier, it may now be an even race between Perry and Romney, because I think Perry's starting to slip a little bit after those two debates.
You believe it's an even race, or do you think Perry's ahead?
No, Perry may be ahead just slightly, but I do think it is an even race, because I think you're going
Is time on the side of Perry, or is time on the side of
Romney?
Romney.
I think it's more on the side of Romney. I'm surprised, frankly, that it is, because I'm surprised. You know, Perry's got some real abilities and some real talents, and particularly he understands how small business works rather than just large business. He's a different kind of candidate in that sense, and it travels all the way through his experience. But, you know, you're in the major leagues now, and at this point, he has not handled himself in 3 debates, and I thought that was really, I was surprised, because in small groups, he handles himself very, very well.
Let's talk about his Mormonism. Is that a killer for him?
For Romney.
For Romney. You know, I don't think so. I think the country is beyond that.
You do?
Yeah, I really do.
Do the polls suggest that you are correct?
No. No,
Where is the swing
what?
state where it
There's
matters?
problems in South Carolina, John. Frankly, we're going to find out.
Right.
But in a number of these southern states, Romney is not that high up.
Here's a question. Which candidate do the Republican graybeards prefer? Do they prefer Romney, or do they prefer Perry, the graybeards?
Well, the graybeards would prefer, are probably frightened to death of Perry. They would prefer Romney. But, you know, Perry still has some real attractive features to him that the the grassroots loves.
Well, Perry has a big personality, and the Tea Party people really want to shake things up, and they think he could be a transformative president, whereas Romney is a safe technocrat, which is why Romney could get swing voters and might actually win.
Now, if you're a graybeard, do you want to keep the Tea Party quiet and in your corner?
You want to keep their energy, but you don't want them to take over.
Wow. Well, where's the end of one and the beginning of another?
That's right.
Eleanor is exactly right in this case. The party.
Which one do the graybeards? Who do the graybeards want?
The party elites want it to be Mitt Romney. They trust him. They think he's one of them. While Perry, I've heard many of these people say, "Oh, he's a little too religious for me."
What's the story?
I would agree. I think the graybeards of the party, the establishment of the party, really would prefer Romney at this stage. They think he's a safer candidate, but more than that, at this stage of the game, it's too early to tell, because we're going to see a number of primaries where this is all going to come out. It looks like Romney would be a stronger candidate against Obama. And the one thing that the party does want, they want to make sure that Obama loses.
It's still a ball game. Issue 3, naive, arrogant, misguided, and dangerous?
We are going now to the United Nations to demand our legitimate right, which is to become a full member of the United Nations as a state of Palestine.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas wants the world's newest nation to be Palestine. And he goes where? To the Israelis? No. To the UN? Yes. The United Nations. President Abbas wants a resolution from the UN to have Palestine recognized as a fully fledged state. That state includes the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, the 2 parcels of land lost to Israel during the Six-Day War in 1967, 44 years ago. But the UN stratagem is a non-starter with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu says Israel cannot return to those borders because, among other reasons, Israel's current demography. There are many Israelis who live on those lands, an estimated 650,000 resident Israelis. So the Prime Minister urges the Palestinians, as a first order of business, to negotiate with Israel on the contours of a future Palestinian state.
The Palestinians deserve a state, but it's a state that has to make that peace with Israel.
President Obama on Wednesday backed Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Peace is hard work. Peace will not come through statements and resolutions at the United Nations. If it were that easy, it would have been accomplished by now.
But Republican presidential candidate Rick Perry attributes the Palestinians' UN move to Mr. Obama.
We would not be here today at this very precipice of such a dangerous move if the Obama policy in the Middle East wasn't naive and arrogant, misguided.
Let's get it straight now. The Palestinians are going to the UN. They want the UN to declare it a state. Does the United Nations have the legal authority to grant statehood to the Palestinians? I ask you more.
No, they don't. What they do, they can recognize it as a state for purposes of the United Nations.
But
it doesn't make
that does not create the state.
It does not create the state.
Who can create a state?
Well, the state, there are definitions of a state. They have to be in control of the area. They have to have a functioning government. They do not have that at this stage of the game, particularly with Hamas controlling one half of the Palestinians.
So only a state can declare another state to be a state?
Yes, in that sense, yes. But the issue here is not who declares it. The United Nations would confer a certain amount of legitimacy to the Palestinian state as they would like it to be. And they feel that that's what they want to have without doing the negotiations with the Israelis.
What's the bottom line of this move?
The bottom line of this move, in my judgment, it's going to go nowhere. It's going to make it much more difficult for a negotiated agreement to come out of it, because what they're not just asking for a state, they're asking to in that resolution to have several of the key issues about the state resolved in that thing, like the borders of the state.
One more question. What's Obama's position?
Well, I'm not quite sure what Obama's position is, because I think his position has evolved, shall we say.
Well, the position is that he approves of what the Palestinians are doing, correct?
No.
He approves of the Israeli resistance to the Palestinians.
Yes, he's opposed, and rightly in my judgment, the United States, and I've heard the Secretary of State and the Deputy Secretary of State talk about it, if they put in, and this is what they're seeking, into that resolution, terms that really should be negotiated between the Israelis, it'll stop all negotiations. These things have got to be negotiated, out of the eye of the cameras, and where they have a chance to trade it out.
Obama is going to veto statehood in the UN for Palestine, because if he didn't, he'd lose the election.
One quick question, and that is that Obama said the 1967 borders, retracting to there, with swaps.
Swaps, yes.
Now, why is the with swaps, why doesn't that cover Obama?
Well, the question is, what the Israelis have to trade in any kind of negotiation are the borders issue. With the borders issue, you solve the whole issue of the settlements, and you have whatever the outcome of configuration of the territory. If you then fix it without, for example, dealing with security, which is what has to be dealt with before the borders, you'll get nowhere in those negotiations.
Issue 4, Pakistan's double dealing.
The support of terrorism is part of their national strategy.
On Thursday, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, delivered a scathing allegation against our putative ally, Pakistan. Mullen testified that Pakistan was behind an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan, last week that killed 24 people. Mullen accused the intelligence service of Pakistan, the ISI, of supporting the terrorist group that executed the attack, the Haqqani Network.
With ISI support, Haqqani operatives planned and conducted that truck bomb attack, as well as the assault on our embassy.
Over the last 9 years, the U.S. has given Pakistan $20 billion in military development aid. Question: what kind of an image is the United States projecting to the world when our supposed ally, Pakistan, stages an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan? Eleanor.
Well, Pakistan has always played a double game with us, but this was a lot more blatant than it's been in the past. And this has implications for our presence in Afghanistan. And why are we staying there? We were staying there to help protect Pakistan because we're worried about those nuclear weapons and we don't want them to fall into the hands of terrorists. So I think this really does present a dilemma for the U.S. because we're obviously not in control of our friends.
What about the day before Mullen's appearance in the Congress, the Senate appropriates $1 billion in aid for Pakistan?
John, this is astonishing, quite frankly, that Mullen, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is right up there fighting a lie in wartime and accusing them of duplicity and being behind an attack on Americans. I agree with Eleanor. This is enormously important, I think, and it raises real questions about how long we're staying there and what we are fighting for in Afghanistan and
that's
Pakistan.
That's a good point
as well.
you make, but I have a larger question.
Right.
What kind of an image are we projecting to the world at large when this kind of thing takes place?
I'm astonished, quite frankly, that they went public with this at this point, because what it suggests is our patience is totally exhausted with these guys, and we're going right out public.
Bear in mind, the man who blew up his turban and killed the principal negotiator with the Taliban was also, he suggested, that was also done through the Haqqani network. So this is really astonishing.
This
is
suggests
very
there's going to be
important
an
for us.
explosion in relations.
And what we're learning, and it's an interesting contrast to the Republican debates where things are cut and simple. We have enemies, we have allies, there are good guys, there are bad guys. That this doesn't happen, especially not in the Middle East. We need Pakistan to do a couple things. One of them is to help us quash al-Qaeda, both in their tribal regions and in Afghanistan. And we also need them to not let their nuclear weapons get in the hands of people who use them.
I want the bigger world impression. Have we become the laughing stock of the world? Are we clearly a country in decline? Now here's a new book, Thomas L. Friedman, Michael Mandelbaum. I recommend it. I haven't read the whole thing, but what I've read is, it seems to me, right on the money. I will tell you what the book is about. First of all, Thomas L. Friedman is one of the most influential columnists, and Michael Mandelbaum, one of our leading foreign policy thinkers. They analyze 4 challenges we face: globalization, the revolution in information technology, the nation's chronic deficits, and our pattern of excessive energy consumption. Their conclusion is we're failing to meet our future requests, our future demands.
Well,
in other words, we're watching a nation in decline.
Well, that news. Is there
any doubt about that?
Well, yeah, Europe is also in decline, and China and India and Brazil are on the rise. You know, we got to get adjusted to that, and we got to be competitive in the new world order, which requires investing.
Suppose the Eurozone fails. That's the zone of economic policy. Suppose it fails.
It's going to
Is that going to affect us?
Sure, it's going to affect us. John, the West is in decline. Somebody 10 years ago wrote a book called Death of the West. You might be familiar with it.
Your lugubrious theme song.
Yeah, it was a little bit ahead of those fellows who were talking about what a wonderful world we got.
Predictions, Pat.
Obama won the Jewish vote by 57 points last time. He won't win it by 37.
Eleanor.
Romney will aggressively compete in Iowa in the hopes of taking out Perry.
Mitt
Romney will win the Republican nomination for president.
Mort.
Obama won the Jewish vote by 78%, and I agree with you. 78%. I hate to disagree.
Warren will be defeated in her bid against Brown as senator from Massachusetts. Bye-bye.
It's in my book.
If, for such a small word, it packs a wallop. If I live to 100, if Social Security isn't enough, if my heart gets broken, if she says yes. We believe IF should never hold you back. IF should be managed with a plan that builds on what you already have. Together, we can create a personal safety net, a launching pad for all those brilliant ifs in the middle of life. You can call on our expertise and get guarantees for the if in life. After all, we're MetLife.